Good evening, and welcome to the first annual evening of drama, music, and Greek fellow feeling in honor of Iten Fales, my mother. Thank you for coming. Thanks to Francis Blessington, who will tell us a tale of Euripides, and to the actors and actresses who will entertain us by bringing Euripides' drama of Hippolytus to life in this room. The importance of classical and especially Greek culture to my mother had its roots in her early life and education. A WGBH colleague of hers, Caroline Isber, contributed this vivid reminiscence of my mother. I loved Iten, her warmth, her verve, the fun we always had together. She was part cavorting friend and part mother with our age difference of about 25 years. I met her at WGBH FM when I was in my early 20s. We produced radio shows together, and she was the art and music critic. She was also the secretary, whatever that meant, for we were only 5 people in a tiny place, a studio near Kendall Square. Iten, the reviewer with free tickets, took me to plays or concerts many nights. She reviewed them with great insight and the broad cultural knowledge of literature and scholarly references that you might expect of an educated German woman of that era. What was more surprising was that she expressed these observations in an interesting, accessible manner. Her broadcasts delighted the public.
I'm Frank Blessington, a professor at Northeastern University, and I want to thank Maria and Athan for having me here and on this very auspicious and important occasion. So I have some ideas, want to present some ideas about the nature of translation, and then we will get to the play. So the title is English with a Greek Accent, Translating Ancient Greek Drama. It begins with a quotation from Dryden. For thought, if it be translated truly, cannot be lost in another language. But the words that convey it to our apprehension, which are the image and the ornament of that thought, may be so ill-chosen as to make it appear in unhandsome dress, and rob it of its native luster. There is, therefore, a liberty to be allowed to the expression. Neither is it necessary that words and lines should be confined to the measure of their original. The sense of an author, generally speaking, is to be sacred and inviolable. That's the end of the quotation. Translation has often been compared to being kissed through a veil. But how much love comes through? Robert Frost claimed that poetry was lost in translation. Goethe maintained that poetry was what came through in translation. The above quotation from Dryden assumes the latter. Dryden reflects the school of imitation, writing a poem in the demotic language into which the original is passing. D.S. Can Ross discusses the other theory, that we should be aware of in the translation that the original is not the English language of the audience, but should show traces of strangeness, otherness, that would be expected to forgive and enjoy in translation, but not in original poetry. In other words, the foreign accent shows through. The danger of the accent school is stiffness and obscurity. Most translators are of the imitation school today. The poem in English is the poem Homer or Euripides would have written if he were born speaking English. The danger of the imitative school is too low a diction. As in one translator insists that we use knocked up instead of pregnant, because that is what they say in her neighborhood. But the ancient Greeks had a nobler attitude about the nature of human beings than we do, and the language of some streets were not admissible in epic recitation or on the stage. Indeed, Greek heroes and heroines demonstrate this dignity, and the destruction of such nobility is the tragedy itself. But the diction cannot reach for pretentiousness either, for we are writing in a democracy that will not allow snobbish exclusions either. I may write pregnant, but not gravid or enceinte. In addition to the level of diction, the translator from the ancient Greek must compromise the original. Greek is a vowel language, where the consonants are skimmed, as in Spanish, while English is a consonant language, like Latin or German. Note the name Aphrodite. In ancient Greek, this is Aphrodite, or Aphrodite, I guess, in modern Greek. But in English it's Aphrodite. Now, in ancient Greek, what you hear are the vowels, Aphrodite. That's what comes through. In English, we just blur the vowels and say Aphrodite, Aphrodite. You don't pay attention to the vowels. So there's a difference there. Sentences in ancient Greek are longer than in English. Using participles, we would break up the passages into shorter sentences. Word order, too, is different and more expressive than English. English depends on word order for sense, as in Pat Garrett shot Billy the Kid. But in Greek, the words can be arranged in any order because morphemes, that is, case endings, indicate who shot whom. English has limits to shifts in word order. Ancient Greek has other conventions that are not possible to repeat in English, such as the use of plurals for singulars, a dual number in addition to singular and plural, like the Hottentot, one, two, and many, an aorist form of the verb that is not strictly a tense, but an aspect of the verb indicating instantaneous action. The translator then is forced to capitulate to English rather than reflect such strangeness, especially in drama that may be performed, where the audience must catch words on the wing. So Greek accent is mitigated there, but we do not forget that we are in a foreign and ancient land where the names of characters and places are Greek, gods are present or referred to, myths are related, conventions such as the chorus, choral odes, and messenger speeches are present, to say nothing of possibilities of staging, costume, music, and dance. As we might expect, poetic translation of the classics reflects trends and controversies in contemporary poetry. George Chapman's idiosyncratic translation of Homer that could expand 2 lines of Homer into a dozen or more of Chapman, though through Elizabethan rhetoric, is as characteristic of the Elizabethan period as the rhyming couplets of Dryden's Virgil or Pope's Homer are characteristic of the neoclassical age. Much to the chagrin of the emerging modernist of the early 20th century, Gilbert Murray's popular translations of Greek tragedy harken back to the pre-Raphaelite era, then still partly in vogue. The problem then was more acute, for old-fashioned verse on the stage is more moribund than a read Greek or Roman epic. Today, when poetic styles can range from the elliptical to the prosaic, from neo-formalist to cast-off casual, we are apt to see the extremes in classical translation. Extremes because the subject matter of the play can be at wide variance from the tone. At one end is the quotidian of Ian Carson, at the other is the formality of Latimer and Green. Currently, the translator has many choices of form and tone and performance as the poet. I recall a production of a Greek tragedy where the text was mostly replaced by the heroes dancing to rock music with a life-size tinfoil doll. Naturally, I can't remember what Greek tragedy it was. Part of the choice is how we relate to the classical world. Can we in our rational world identify with an aristocratic society based on slavery, though not racial slavery, that believed in animistic gods and ancestor worship, a world in which women were held inferior, an art that is idealistic, depicting gods and goddesses and heroes and heroines rather than Madame and Monsieur Bovary? History answers yes. Like Greek thought, Greek art was exportable to other cultures, and even provided a prestigious base for those cultures we call neoclassical. We just heard about Germany. Such as Europe and the United States, in the way the Tang Dynasty provided a basis for Heian Japan. The reason for this exportability lies in the refining away of the limiting and disturbing particulars of Greek culture, leaving us with situations that are universal and occur everywhere. So the translator, as well as the director and cast, can trust to the text without the unnecessary embellishment that we see so much now in opera and theater. In the summer of 2009, the Shakespeare in the Park series in New York produced The Bacchae. It was simplified to an orgy ruined by bloodshed under the direction of Joanne Acolytus, whose general idea was to make the audiences, quote, nauseous, unquote, at the end of the play. Recent productions of the Metropolitan Opera have been greeted with boos for their extra-textual overkill by directors. In a production of Tosca, directed by Luc Bondy, Tosca, instead of leaping over the parapet, rushes upstairs to be suspended over the audience on a wire. The audience booed the production with such vehemence that the curtain was hastily let down. In tragedy, the Greeks put on stage some of the deepest concerns of the human race. Whether to bury your brother when an unstable state says no, whether to find out your past at the expense of ruining your life, whether to stop or try to understand a fanatical religion led by a cruel God, the consequences of matricide, patricide, infanticide, and incest, what drives a mother to kill a child, thus breaking perhaps the strongest bond in the world and the greatest taboo of all. Hegel pointed out that in tragedy both sides have claims. The world and humankind are at odds. In epic, characters must accept their fate. In tragedy, they question, problematize their fate. Like us, they feel caught in an unjust world that they are only partly responsible for and only partly understand. And they are overpunished. Humanity is in conflict with nature, or if you will, the divine order of things. What human being cannot relate to such situations? In the play, we vent our own sense of injustice through Aristotle's catharsis. Creatures greater than we play out this drama on a mythic stage. Of course, except in the later plays of Euripides, tragic characters always lose. As Goethe pointed out, the essence of tragedy is a conflict that admits of no solution. As audience, we sense that we will die, but unjustly. To me, this catharsis means not trying to over-particularize the translation in the flash of the contemporary, but trusting to the universal experience of Greek tragedy already streamlined for universality. Yet there are place names and mythological references, but they demonstrate that very universality. This action happened long ago and far away, in the ideal world of Greek art, remote even from the world of the ancient Greeks, a world of mystery and unfamiliarity that helps universalize and aesthetically distance the experience. We may realize from our reactions that as beginning still and always will, we live in a democratic world and cannot over-formalize Greek tragedy without seeming wooden. It is hard to go back to masque and stilts and chant in musical intervals of fifths without seeming antiquarian. On the other hand, by bringing in contemporary cliches like Christian religious fanatics or fascist political tyrants, victimized women, or Michael Jackson transvestites, instead of ancient Greek transvestites, we have not Greek tragedy, but MTV. That combination of dance, song, and dramatic fragment of our era. I don't mean that it's not entertainment, but it's not Greek tragedy. It offers little historical or mythological perspective. Opera was born when the Florentine Camerata thought they had rediscovered ancient Greek tragedy. Opera and MTV emphasize emotion over thought. But as Aristotle pointed out in the Poetics, dianoia, or thought, is an essential part of Greek tragedy. Drama particularly, unlike the other arts except film, is a large cooperative venture in which author, translator, if there be one, director, and actors, and others all have a chance of intensifying the subject. Unlike other arts, performers confront a live audience directly and can vary and enhance a text even during performance. But drama is seldom physical action. Plots are essentially talk, or better, arguing. Neither the ancient Greeks nor modern stage actors slug it out as they do in films. Drama is arguing, and arguing is words. The play will add setting, lights, costume, and gesture. But only a mime or ballet can do without a verbal text. The text is the basis of theater, and the more powerful the text, the more powerful the play. For this purpose, every line should ideally have firepower. Let us turn to Euripides Hippolytus, of 428 BC. The tragedy begins with a monologue by Aphrodite, or whatever you want to call her, proclaiming rather defensively her greatness. A few lines later, we learn she's annoyed with human beings who belittle her powers. She who rules even gods and goddesses, the pure, the puritanical, the virginal who cop against her will be punished, and others besides. We are not sure if she is a true goddess or an allegory for repressed emotions, or both. In any case, the offenders will pay heartily. Hippolytus denies her greatness. We soon see in the play that he doesn't even pay lip service to her statue. She takes aim. He shall die this very day, along with his stepmother. Phaedra, whom Aphrodite has forced to fall in frustrated love with him. What does she care what happens to Phaedra, the pawn in the game, or to Theseus, the enraged husband, who believes his son has raped his wife Phaedra, and who drives Hippolytus to his fiery death? Passion destroys those in its path. Phaedra is torn by incestuous shame and unconsumed love for Hippolytus. Hippolytus is shocked and offended by Phaedra's confession of passion, and Theseus wrecked by his later resented rash actions. In the time of Homer, an early Greek audience would have taken Aphrodite at her word. The devastating actions of deities are inexplicable. The cosmos is mysterious, often dark. Didn't Zeus bring about the Trojan War to lighten the earth of overpopulation, or for some further mysterious reason? No doubt some still believed in the older religion. But 300 years later, the sophisticated city audience is unsure. And the Trojan women, Euripides' Hecuba doubts the very existence of the gods. O support of earth, having your seat on earth, Zeus or air, whoever you are, difficult to know, either necessity of nature or mind of man. By dramatic convention, Euripides must use, or at least mention, the gods, and he exploits the ambiguity. Hippolytus has turned exclusively to the hunt. To sublimate his sexual passions, he would rather kill than love. He extols Artemis, virginal goddess of chastity and the chase. He feels her presence when he is in the field. He is obsessed with his purity, his virginity. But ancient Greeks were far from Christian notions of chastity. Hippolytus will be destroyed by his own companions in the hunt, his horses. Hippolytus means loosing of horses. The horses of emotion that Plato thought should be controlled by reason. Euripides does not moralize or psychoanalyze the tragedy. That's up to readers and viewers if they choose. His vocation is to present the actions of hate and love, fear and guilt. As we watch, we may understand what Aristotle meant by calling Euripides the most tragic of poets, and why he has remained relevant to audiences for so many centuries, even into our own space and time. Let's consider the English meter. In Greek, Euripides uses iambic trimeters, that is, 3 sets of iambics, or 6 iambics per line, that each short syllable is half the duration of a long syllable, like a half note followed by 2 quarter notes. So it goes dum to dum, dum to dum, dum to dum, with some variations. But the English meter is determined by stress syllables, not length, though stress may play a role. The opening in Greek is pole men embrotoisi, kouk anonymos. We don't read it that way, but metrically it is pole menen brotois si kouk anonymos. I have used a 4-beat stress line for the dialogue sections of the play, and various meters imitating the freer choral songs. So the first line then is, a great goddess and not unnamed. That's to read it metrically, which I don't want anybody to do. The first word in the text is the identification of the opening speaker as Aphrodite. We might keep in mind that Aphrodite is not only a goddess, but in ancient Greek can also be a common noun for love. In Greek, the word great is separated from the word goddess by almost a whole line. Because number, case, and gender correspond, we know that great goes with goddess. The separation would make forced English, a great among men and not anonymous goddess. Furthermore, Aphrodite calls herself Cuprous, another name for her, but most of the audience and most readers will not understand this appellation. She was called Cuprous after the island of Cyprus, where she had a great cult, but dramatic performance has no room for footnotes, so the translator is left with the job of communicating directly from the Greek play to the audience by means of a slightly accented text. Let us then move on to the play. We'll just take a moment to transform our identities by a few thousand years. As we read from these texts, just pretend these texts are not here, that we actually, so Hippolytus has been out hunting, so he appears with his skins, unpopular as they are in Cambridge. But
Πολύ μεν εν πρωτήσει, κου κανόνιμος, θεά κι έκλειμε, Κύπρης, ουρανού τέσσω. Όσοι τε πόντου τερμόνων τ' Ατλαντικό νέου συνήσω, φως ορόντες ηλίου, τους μεν σέβοντας τα μα πρεσβεύω κράτη, σφάλω, δώσει φρονούσιν εις ημάς μέγα. Ένε στιγάρ καν Θεόν γέννη τόδε, τιμόμενοι χαίρουσιν ανθρώπων ύπο. Δείξω δε μύθον τόν δαλήθιαν τάχαν, ο γάρ με, Θησαίος πες, Αμαζόνος τόπος, υπόλυτος, αγνού πηχθέως παιδεύματα, μόνος πολιτών της δε γης τροζηνίας, λέγει κακίστην δε μόνον πεφυγένε. Ανένετε δε λέκτρα, που ψάβει γάμον, φίβου δε δελφίν άρτεμιν, διός κόρην, τιμά, μεγίστην δε μόνον ηγούμενος. Χλωράν δανείλην παρθένο ξινόν αή, κι συν ταχύες θύρας εξερίχ φωνός. Μίζο βρωτίας προς πεσόν ομιλίας. Τούτη σημαίν νυν, ου φθονώ. Τι γάρ με δει. Άδεισε με ημάρτηκε, τιμωρήσω με υπόλυτον εν τη διμέρα. Τα πολλά δε πάλε προκόψας, ου πόνου πολλού με δει. Ελθόντα γάρ νυν πηχθέως πότε κδόμων σεμνών, εσόψιν και τέλη μυστηρίων, πανδίωνος γιν, πατρός ευγενής δάμαρ, ιδούσα φέδρα, καρδίαν κατέσχετο, έρωτη δεινό, της εμείς βουλεύμασιν.
A great goddess, and not unnamed by men or gods, I am called Aphrodite. Of all men who dwell bound by the Black Sea and the Atlantic and look upon the sunlight, I honor those who reverence my power and make fall those who are arrogant. What holds true for the race of gods is that they rejoice honored by men. I shall quickly reveal the truth of my words. The son of Theseus, the Amazon's child Hippolytus, descendant of reverend Pythias, alone of the citizens of the Trojan land, claims I was born the worst of the gods. He scorns the bed and flinches at marriage, honors Artemis, Apollo's sister, Zeus's daughter, as the greatest of goddesses. Ever that virgin's companion, he drives out the beasts from the green wood with swift dogs, having more than mortal companionship. I don't envy him for that. What's that to me? Yet I shall take vengeance on Hippolytus this day, for the wrong he has done me. Much is underway, little work remains. Phaedra saw him once coming from the home of Pythias for the holy vision and mystery rites into Pandion's land. She, the wife of his noble father, was taken with a fierce love according to my plan. Before coming to the Trojan country, right by the rock of Athena, opposite this land, she founded a temple to Aphrodite, loving a foreign love, so men will rename the goddess Hippolytus. After Theseus left the Cecropian land, fleeing the pollution of murdering the Palantidae, he sailed here with his wife, serving a year's foreign banishment. Now, groaning and struck down by the whip of love, the wretched woman is dying in silence. No servant knows her sickness. But her love must not fall out this way. I'll reveal the affair to Theseus. All will come clear. The father will kill the young man, my enemy, with wishes that Poseidon will grant as a boon to Theseus. Not in vain he prays to the god 3 times in all. Virtuous, but nevertheless Phaedra shall die. I don't consider her death so important that I won't inflict on my enemies such vengeance that will make me rejoice. But I see Theseus come. Having left the word of the hunt, I see the son of Theseus, Hippolytus. I will leave this place. A great company of followers behind him roars hymns to the goddess Artemis. He does not know the gates of hell lie open, and he looks on the daylight today for the last time.
Follow me and sing. Follow me to the heavenly daughter of Zeus, Artemis. We are in her care. Queen, most honored queen, offspring of Zeus, hail. O hail, daughter of Leto and Zeus. Artemis, most beautiful by far of virgins. You who in the great sky dwell, hall of your father, Zeus's home, all gold. Hail, beautiful, most beautiful Olympian. For you I bear this woven crown, fashioned from a pure meadow where no shepherd dare feed his flocks, nor iron ever came, but a pure meadow the spring bee passes through. Shame tends it with river water, not for those who learned moderation, but for those given it in everything and always by nature. They may pick, but never those who are base. Now, O dear goddess, receive this garland for your golden hair from a pious hand. My gift alone of mortals is that I am your companion and converse with you, not seeing with eyes. May I finish life's race as I began.
My lord, only gods are called masters. Would you take good advice from me?
With all my heart, or I would seem unwise.
Do you know the law set down for mortals?
No, what are you asking me about?
To hate the proud, unfriendly to everyone.
Rightly so. What proud man is not oppressive?
Is there any charm in courteous conversation?
Much, and profit with little trouble.
And in the gods you expect the same.
If we mortals follow the laws of the gods.
Why do you ignore a high goddess?
What? Be careful of slips of the tongue.
Her, Aphrodite, set at your door.
Being holy, I greet her at a distance.
She's revered and well known, you know, among men.
Men care for different gods and men.
Good luck with the thought you will need.
No night wonder goddess pleases me.
My boy, we must honor the gods.
Come, servants, enter the house. Make the meal. The joy of the hunt is a full table. And rub down the horses. Yoke them to the chariot, so after good eating, I shall exercise them properly. I bid your Aphrodite goodbye.
Young men thinking like that should not be imitated. I will pray as a slave should to your statue, Mistress Aphrodite. One must forgive if out of youth with a wild heart someone speaks rashly, seem not to hear. Gods must be wiser than men.
Some stone, they say, drops ocean water, sends from its cliffs a rushing stream that fills our pitchers. A friend of mine was there, soaking the crimson robes in river water, spreading them on sunlit backs of warm stones. There I first heard the story of Our Ladyship. Worn through and sick in bed she keeps within. Fine fabrics make dark her golden hair. I hear 3 days she has fasted, keeping food away, her holy body denying earth's immortal grains, and wishes death from secret suffering to drive her to misfortune's port. Does your mind wander, princess, possessed by Pan or Hecate, the holy Corybantis, or by the mountain mother? With bestial Dictynna you waste away in godless sin for offerings you never made. She wanders here in Limna, and over ocean sandbars in whirling salt sea water. Or has your husband, Prince of Athens, noble in descent, been herded away at home in secret from your bed? Or has some seaman sailed out from your isle of Crete to this, the haven kindest to the sailors, and sent the queen a message whose bedrid soul is bound to grief from suffering? The evil, wretched helplessness of women loves to dwell inside our nature, along with childbirth and thoughtlessness. One day this wind shot through my womb. I called upon the midwife Artemis, the heavenly guardian of the arrows. Desired by all, she visits me with help from the gods. But here the old nurse is before the door and brings the woman from the house. The hateful cloud upon her brow increases. My heart yearns to discover what has destroyed the body and ruined the color of the queen.
Oh, the evils and hateful diseases of man! What shall I do for you? What not? Light is here, shining air too. Your sick bed is now out of the house. To come here was all your talk. Soon you will hurry back to your room. Quickly you falter, and like nothing. The present brings no joy. You think what is elsewhere more lovely. To be sick is better than tending the sick. The first is simple. The other means misery of the mind and labor for the hand. All human life is full of pain. There is no end of suffering. Whatever is lovelier than life is a shadow blended in a cloud. We are shown unhappy in love for this earthly something that glimmers, lacking experience of another life, with no revelation from below the earth. We are carried away by legends.
Raise my body, lift my head. My limbs have fallen apart. Take my pretty arms, women. This headdress is heavy on me. Remove it. Spread my curls upon my shoulders.
Take courage, my child. Do not toss about roughly. You shall bear your sickness better with calmness and a noble spirit. All mortals must suffer.
Ah, how may I drink pure water from a fresh spring and rest under poplars, lie in a grassy meadow?
Oh, child, what are you saying? Don't say such things to the common people, tossing off words that ride on madness.
Take me to the mountains. I'm going to the woods, to the pines, where beast-murdering dogs tread hard upon the spotted deer. By the gods, I long to shout to the hounds and toss near my golden hair a Thessalian spear, have the barbed javelin in my hand.
Why do you fret, child, over these things? What are the hunters and hounds to you? Why do you love the flowing fountain? By the tower is a watery hillside where there would be a drink for you.
Mistress Artemis, goddess of salty Limna, and of the horse-echoing hippodrome, would I were on your plains, breaking in Venetan cold.
Δέσποινα Λίας Άρτεμι, Λίμνας και γυμνασίων των υποκρότων, ήθε γεννήμαν εν σύσδα παιδis, πόλους ενέτας τα μαλιζωμένα.
That's as far as I've translated. So far, Euripides went on and finished the play that I have.
While other voyages were lost in search of Alexander the Great's illustrious tomb, obsessed with treasure buried in Asia's depths, we moored in coves engulfed by evening's musk.